What happens when the President of the United States negotiates with foreign governments while his family business is actively pursuing deals in those same countries? In May of 2025, President Donald Trump traveled to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, accompanied by some of America's most powerful business leaders. The trip produced headlines about artificial intelligence, semiconductor manufacturing, data centers, and trillions of dollars in investment. But beneath those headlines is a question that deserves closer examination. Were these deals primarily designed to benefit the United States or Donald Trump and his family business empire? Today, we're going to follow the money. This is the Journalism of Everything. I'm Darisse Smith, an independent journalist. Before we get into cryptocurrency, we need to establish something important. Previous presidents often divested significant business interests or placed assets into blind trusts to avoid the appearance of conflicts of interest. George W. Bush did this. He actually divested and sold his ownership of the Texas Rangers and then put the rest of his into a blind trust. Donald Trump chose a different path. While he has repeatedly stated that he is not involved in the day-to-day management of the Trump organization, he still maintains ownership interests connected to a sprawling network of companies and LLCs. And that's where his story begins. Just before President Trump's Middle East trip, Eric Trump announced the Trump International Hotel in Tower, Dubai, an 80-story luxury development in partnership with Saudi-based Dar Global. That announcement came as President Trump himself was preparing to meet with leaders in the very same region. Now, that doesn't automatically prove wrongdoing, but it does create a situation where the public has to ask, where does presidential diplomacy end and family business begin? During the trip, the United Arab Emirates pledged roughly $1.4 trillion in investments connected to the United States. The investments touched several sectors: artificial intelligence, semiconductor manufacturing, data centers, and cryptocurrency. And you can really see who benefited in the CEOs that accompanied Trump on this trip. Supporters argue that investments could strengthen America's technological competitiveness, and it definitely could. And to be fair, some of these projects could create jobs, particularly during construction of AI data centers and then in semiconductor manufacturing. But there's another side to this story. Many AI data centers employ relatively few people once they're completed. Much of the financial upside flows to technology companies, investors, and corporate partners. And that raises another question. Who ultimately benefits from these deals? American workers or the people already sitting at the top of the financial ladder? To understand that question, I went directly to Trump's financial disclosures. Every president must file an executive branch public financial disclosure report, also known as the OGE Form 278E. These forms provide a rare glimpse into the financial interests connected to the president. And buried among dozens of pages, actually 278 pages of financial holdings, was a name that caught my attention. DT Marks Dubai LLC Trump. At first glance, it just looks like another business entity. But the name is important because it connects Trump's business interests directly to the United Arab Emirates. And it also reflects a naming convention that appears throughout another Trump-linked venture, World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency company. That's where this story gets really interesting. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about cryptocurrency itself. Roughly 55 to 60 million Americans own some form of cryptocurrency, and that is all levels, whether you own just a little bit up to the people that own lots of it. Only a fraction of these people actively trade it, and ownership is heavily concentrated among wealthier Americans who can afford greater financial risk. Most Americans aren't making their mortgage payments with crypto. They're not buying groceries with crypto. For most people, cryptocurrency remains a speculative investment. And that's important because the financial gains from crypto often flow disproportionately to those who already possess significant wealth. And that's exactly why the next piece of the story matters. So let's connect the dots. First, there's MGX. MGX is a major UAE investment fund chaired by Sheikh Tahnoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who also serves as the UAE's national security advisor and is the brother of the country's president. MGX announced a massive $2 billion investment in Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. That alone would be significant. But here's the detail that caught the attention of ethics watchdogs. The investment was made using a stablecoin called USD1. And USD1 is connected to World Liberty Financial, the Trump family's cryptocurrency venture. Think about what that means. A state-backed investment fund from a foreign government chose to use a Trump-connected cryptocurrency product in one of the largest crypto transactions ever announced. That decision dramatically increased the visibility and circulation of USD1. And stablecoin issuers generate revenue from the reserves backing those coins. In other words, the larger the stablecoin becomes, the more valuable it can be to the people behind it. The story doesn't stop there. Reports indicate that Sheikh Tahnoon also invested hundreds of millions of dollars into World Liberty Financial itself. Then, shortly after Trump's Middle East trip, another player emerged. A company called Aqua One Foundation announced approximately $100 million purchase of World Liberty Financial governance tokens. What's unusual is that very little public information exists about Aqua One before this investment appeared. That lack of transparency immediately raised questions among journalists and watchdog organizations. Who are the investors? Where did the money come from? And why was so much capital flowing into a company connected to the sitting president's family? Those questions, despite the Senate Finance Committee trying to look into it, remain largely unanswered. Let's be clear. Not every investment announced during Trump's Middle East trip was necessarily bad for the United States. Some may ultimately create jobs. Some may strengthen America's position in artificial intelligence and advanced technology. But that's not the issue. The issue is whether Americans can confidently distinguish between policies that benefit the country and policies that benefit the president's personal financial interests. And it is purposefully murky. When foreign governments, sovereign wealth funds, and investors direct money toward businesses connected to a sitting president, that creates an ethical question that deserves public scrutiny regardless of political party. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or something else entirely, transparency matters. And in this case, there are still a lot of unanswered questions. Questions about cryptocurrency, questions about foreign investment, and questions about where presidential power ends and personal profit begins. This story is only one piece of a much larger financial puzzle. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to continue examining Trump's financial disclosures one section at a time and following the money wherever it leads. If you found this analysis useful, please subscribe to this channel. I am a one-woman show, an independent journalist. I'm also a wife and a mother, and I do all of the research, all of the episode creation, production, and editing all by myself. So please subscribe, like, comment. I'd love to hear from you. I am Darisse Smith, an independent journalist. This is the journalism of everything.